Well, hello, firewood friends. It's good to see you all back. I've been having a pretty busy day. I started off pretty early this morning and just now got my phone out to start taking some pictures of what I've been doing. So I wanted to show you what I've been doing here. So here's my splitter, and there's my truckload of wood I've been putting in. This is all Locust right here. And then back here, I split a bunch of cherry, and I'll be stacking that soon. And this is filled with a bunch of ash and just kind of miscellaneous stuff. So that's what I've been getting into. As I go around the pile, I wanted to show you I've made some significant strides in attaining more wood this last week, and I wanted to show you that. So this pile, as you can see, and it goes pretty tall, was not here before. This whole row. In my previous videos, you might remember that I had 3 rows here. 1, 2, 3. And then in the last week and a half, I've added this large 4th row and starting a 5th row here as well. And so life has been good. I've been busy. Sorry I didn't get it all filmed, but I was just busy getting this stuff done. So that's what we're gonna be doing today, is keep working, keep getting busy. We're gonna do some other things as well. So it's getting that time of the year where I need to start bagging wood and start selling it in my little side wood stand. So I'm gonna get into that hopefully today, maybe later today. I got a lot of stuff to do, but first I got a friend who's coming to gather some of this. He's got a bonfire and so these are all my little reject pieces, and I got a bunch here. So he wants to have a bonfire, and I said, come on over. I got plenty of little rejects that you can have. And so when he gets here, we're gonna load up his truck and he can have a bunch of that stuff and have a good old bonfire. Family friend of mine. I tend to do that for friends of ours, and let them enjoy their good night of good bonfire. So talk to you later, and we'll see you splitting here in a second. Alright, so I was wondering if anybody can identify this log. It is a special log. It's a special type of wood. Kind of has an ash look to it. Maybe those stringy things people might think is elm. But it's the bark that's very, very interesting. The bark is very smooth to the touch. Some rough spots. This is, and I'm pretty sure, called Tree of Heaven. And some of you know what Tree of Heaven is, some of you don't. Another name for it is Ailanthus. That's its scientific name, or genus name, I believe, is Ailanthus. And this tree is invasive to Ohio and to America because it comes from China. So this is kind of interesting. I get on a lot of forums. You know, do you split this stuff? Do you burn it? What do you do with it? Well, what happens is it really doesn't have much value. It's not used for furniture. It's not used for much of anything because it really has no value per se. So this type of wood is basically good for firewood. Some forums will talk about how it's poisonous and stuff, and that might be true, like at the roots or something, but I've never found that to be a problem. I've burned it before, and it seems to burn fine. It burns fast, very fast, much like pine burns. But as far as a roadside stand application, as far as just burning to burn to get rid of it, like you said, like if you look at it, it splits pretty nicely. And because of that, I'll put it on my roadside stand. I'll put, a piece here, a piece there, and no one will know the difference. So this is Tree of Heaven, otherwise known as Ailanthus, invasive tree. If you see them, cut them down. But then also you got to spray the roots. You got to kill the root system, otherwise 3 or 4 trees will grow in place of the one you cut down. So cut them down and spray them. That's the only way to get rid of these things, because otherwise they grow extremely fast, something like 6 feet a year in some cases. You want to get rid of this tree. So every time I see it, I cut it down, I spray the roots to kill the root system, and that seems to get rid of it on people's properties. That's one of my #1 pet peeves, is this wood, just because it doesn't belong here and it will take over a forest. So this wood came from a honey hole that I'm not going to talk too much about, but basically it's not on private land, it was on public land, and they must have cut it down to get out of the way, but I doubt they sprayed the root system. So I may go back to that honey hole spot someday, and I may just go ahead and spray the root systems if I find that where they cut this down at. So there you go, little history of Ailanthus, Tree of Heaven. Okay, so I'm back now, and it's been a few days since I was splitting wood. In particular, I was thinking about the Ailanthus tree that I was showing you guys all about, and trying to give you some information. Probably most of you know that it's an invasive species, and it's a mess. But it started thinking, and it got my wheels turning. I did some research while I was gone, and I found, believe it or not, a biblical verse that kind of relates to that idea of the Tree of Heaven. So let me read it to you. It's Isaiah chapter 9. I believe it starts around verse number 8 and goes to about verse number 13, somewhere in that area. And it said, "The Lord has sent a message against Jacob; it will fall on Israel." This is about the Lord's anger, the Lord being angry at Israel. And all the people will know it, Ephraim and the inhabitants of Samaria, who say with pride and arrogance of heart, "The bricks have fallen down, and we will rebuild with dressed stone. The fig trees have been felled, but we will replace them with cedars." But the Lord has strengthened Rezin's, I think is his name, Rezin's foes against them, and has spurred their enemies on. Armenians from the east and Philistines from the west have devoured Israel with open mouth. Yet for all this, his anger is not turned away. His hand is still up unpraised. So I'm thinking about this verse, especially verse 10, when it says, the bricks have fallen down, and we will rebuild with dressed stone. The fig trees have been felled, but we will replace them with cedars. So I'm thinking about this tree of heaven, and I came across this, and it kind of reminds me that I said earlier that one of my goals is to try to maintain the integrity of the forest of Ohio. That's really kind of my overall ultimate major goal that I have. So when I go into someone's property and I see a tree of heaven or some kind of honeysuckle bush or something like that, I'm going to say, hey, this thing is taking over the United States, Ohio, your property. You need to get rid of this and start getting and try to find ways to mitigate it. So I started researching, how did the tree of heaven get here? So my little internet research I did, it was brought over by Chinese immigrants somewhere in the late 1700s, mid 1800s, probably when they were building the railroad across the US. And they used the tree of heaven in China for medical reasons. I'm not sure what. Obviously there's some kind of medical stuff they take from maybe the roots of the bark, I don't know. It also has some cultural significance in their culture. But what's most amazing is that people in America were putting this as the centerpieces to some of their gardens. It is a really good shade tree. I mean, it's a really amazing, gives a lot of shade. The long compound leaves, very good for shade. But of course it grows really fast, and let me tell you how fast it grows. It grows 3 to 6 feet per year as a sapling and can get up to 80 feet tall and up to 6 feet in diameter. That's crazy. So with that 3 to 6 feet growth, just as a young tree, it can outgrow any native tree, and of course steals sunlight, and then that's to our slower growing trees, and then that takes the sunlight, and then they go away, and then you have this forest full of tree of heavens. And so what's amazing to me about Isaiah chapter 9 was that they were cutting down sycamore trees, or what they call fig trees in some versions, for a more popular cedar tree. So I read up about the sycamore tree over there in Israel, and it's got a very light, porous wood. So it kind of reminds me of probably your softer woods, maybe like poplar or something like that. Very light, porous, sucks up water very easily. Whereas cedar has a very heavy type wood. In fact, it was such a good wood to have that the Egyptians would come up there and take the cedar trees and make coffins out of them for their burials, because it withstands rot and it doesn't absorb water, which is how you preserve a mummy. So that was kind of interesting as well. So for us as firewood people, loggers, tree experts, we know that the tree of heaven is useless. Maybe, like I use it for a low-grade type of firewood, camp firewood basically. I have burned it myself. I have sold it to other people, but not for very much, because I know it's not going to be much of a heat BTU source. However, it does burn. So when you see the tree of heaven, so when I see this tree of heaven in the forest, I see it on the edge of farm fields. I've even cut them down at my own church property, which is quite amazing. I will cut those down, I will spray their stumps, I will come back year after year checking on for new sapling growth and kill those as well until it's eradicated from the property. Because I want to save, I really do, I want to save the more valuable and the native trees of Ohio that we have to keep our industry, literally this is our industry, going for years and years to come. So it's good seeing you all. I hope you enjoyed this. Take care. All right, so I backed up my truck. I'm gonna start stacking wood here. So let's get stacking. Now, one thing I don't understand, and I'm not the brightest when it comes to firewood identification, but everyone keeps saying this is locust. I've cut down locust before and I've never seen it look like this. So I wonder if it's some kind of hybrid or some variant. So what I'm stacking here and what's behind you, there's a full cord of wood right behind the camera here. And so this is going to be another 1 or 2 cords here once it's all stacked. But when I was cutting this stuff up, the guys I was cutting with called it green locust. Never heard of green locust before. So I looked it up. No mention of green locust on the internet. Except I saw one website did show that black locust can sometimes be called green locust. And as you can see, it's got a nice greenish tone to it, which I guess is why they call it green locust. But when it dries really dark brown. So I guess it is black locust. But whatever it is, I appreciate it. Again, all this this locust all came from, if you watch some of my older videos, came from one of the interstate routes. They were chopping down all the trees between the berm of the road and all the way to the fence. And then they would take the limbs and the stumps and they would take them to landfill. And all the trunks they brought up to the exit ramp. And they had a landing there at the exit ramp, and they let everyone come in and take the wood for free. And that's what I've been doing. So one of my very first videos I posted was me at the landing on top of this kind of on slight grade, and I'm chopping these trees, and almost in the first scene, the log pile shifts towards me. That was scary. Middle of winter, snow everywhere, icy. Not good. But didn't kill me, and I'm grateful for that. So green locust, never heard of it. And I also had this verified by a college professor who studies trees, and they agreed it was green locust. Never knew. Well, as you can see, my truck is still pretty full. But we'll get it unloaded here soon. Beautiful Saturday day here in Southeast Ohio. And I'm just doing what I love. stacking wood. So I'm getting to the point here. Turn the camera around. You can see there's my pole. Here's my crisscross for that. That's a cord. 6 foot tall, 16 feet long. And here's where I'm starting now. Which it was. So it looks like I'm gonna have to start crisscrossing here, because if I take this pile, I don't want this pile to fall on top of it. So that's probably the plan I'm gonna have to go with. So that's the plan. Keep working. Keep working. So we'll be back. Well, hello. It's the next morning, and I got a chance to clean up last night, and I've got a big pile of small stuff from the wood splitter that I'm going to burn. I don't have property around here where I can just toss it into the woods and let Mother Nature decay it, so my job is to take the morning newspaper and to burn this stuff. Neighbors love it. Not really. So, got some old newspaper here, some balled up, and we're going to let this burn pile go. It is a little close to the wood pile, but so far it's never been a problem. I have caught my wood pile on fire before. Slightly, not much, just a little bit, but easy to put out. So let's see if we can get this thing going. Here's my matches, and let's light this. Here we go. So nice and smoky. Remember, all this wood is still green, so it's going to create a lot of smoke. Hopefully the smoke goes that way, so I can go over here and split this way. But this is what I have to do to get rid of all the scrap wood. It's just too small to bundle. It's just time to let it go. Get it out of my way. And it's amazing to see how much it creates. Take a look at that. Let's turn this around. Nice little bonfire going. And like probably a lot of you are saying, too close to the wood pile. Yeah, I agree. But I gotta put that wood somewhere. I don't have that much space on this property. But it really hasn't been much of a problem. Very few times have I had a problem. It's actually not smoking as bad as I thought it would. Well, that's going to burn down pretty quick. And I'll just keep adding to it today as I keep splitting.